Yo, what's up? It's DNA for sure. And if you saw my last video, or see it, under, wait, not under, maybe it could be, I don't know. Anyway, I made a video demonstrating how to how to roll a joint. And these are my 10 tips. I had 8 and I've thought of 2, and let's go. The first 4, nah, all right. The first one is use 2 papers. If you the more papers that you use, the slower it'll burn. If depending on if you roll right, you can do it how I like to do it, and that's just so I can fit more weed and it won't fucking fall out, and I can manipulate it easier. It doesn't burn slower if you use 2 papers back to back. It doesn't burn slower if you lick the paper, lick the glue and stick them at the bottom. It doesn't matter. But use 2 papers. Number 2 is make the folds on the sides. Fold them in on the side. Fold the paper in on the side, and it should make, I call it a bolt, but it's more like the paper's a triangle. A lot of people just put the weed in and don't even fold it in half. I've seen that. But I like to fold the corners of the papers in. One, so you can make a filter when you pull it out right before you roll it all the way up. And 2, so the weed won't fall out, because I'm really bad with keeping weed inside of blunts and papers. Number 3, learn how to master the bolt. That's not even another tip, but watch that video on how I made the bolt, whether you want to roll up how I did or not. Number 4 is learn how to roll your joints in one motion, where you put your thumb here and you just push it up and roll it up, like in the video that I made. A lot of people can't do that. It saves a lot of time. It makes everything more even, and you look cool as fuck in front of bitches. Duh. Nah, but you could roll like 3 joints in like fucking 2 minutes if you learn how to roll like that instead of pushing it back up. The next tip is don't roll joints like blunts. Can't even roll all blunts the same. You can't roll a swisher like you roll a Dutch. You can't roll a white out like you roll a swisher. You can't roll a Vega like you roll a Dutch. They're not all different, but there's different kinds of blunts. So don't roll joints like blunts. Don't roll joints. You could roll blunts like joints too, sometimes. But what I mean is, roll it in one motion. Don't roll it from the middle out, or from the left to the right, or the right to the left, or rip it in 3 sections. That's what I like to do. I rip the blunt in 3 sections and roll the left, then the middle, then the right. But no, just roll it like a joint. How I rolled it. I killed that shit. The next tip is looseness equals circulation. Now, a lot of the times for blunts, there has to be more of a balance. For joints, especially when you have a lot of weed, you put it in there. If you roll it too tight, it's gonna burn hella fast. For blunts, if you roll it too tight, that's just gonna keep blowing out, and you're gonna have to re-roll it, and you're gonna be wasting weed because it's not gonna burn at all. But for joints, if you roll it more loose than it is tight, and not as balanced, then it will burn slower. If you roll it consistently, I always roll like the Bob Marley 70s, where they're fattest at the tip, and then they gradually get smaller, or backwards. But looseness and circulation, keeping it consistent, not too loose, not tight at all. The next tip is twisting it at the end. Like I showed you, a lot of people don't do that. That's just to catch the flame easier. You won't be able to pull it until it's all burnt, but that's just to catch the flame, and it Sometimes I roll up like 5 joints and put them in my pocket. Or I used to. I don't smoke like that now. But that's for that. The next tip is just like blunts. The more material that you have, the more weed, whatever, tobacco or weed that you have, spice, the more that you have, of course, the better. The easier it's going to be to roll, and the slower it's going to burn, especially if it's sticky. Then the second to last tip is to get as many joint papers as you can, that's really important. Or don't just get one pack of joint papers, get two. Because if you use two papers and you smoke 3 joints a day, that's 6 papers. Even if you get a pack of 100, that's only gonna last you. That's just gonna run out a lot quicker than you think. And for I think it's tops, either tops or J. It's not JLBs. For tops, they have a little paper in there that's blue or cardboard for JLBs that lets you know, hey, you only have 20 or 25 papers left. Sometimes halfway through the pack, 50. When I smoke, I probably get like an eighth and roll all those motherfuckers by the time that eighth is done, and I get like 2 more grams or some shit. Definitely. And my last tip, a lot of people like to flavor their blunts, like rub honey on them, or I would not recommend that you dip your joints in liquor and then let them dry out for the next day. I don't really recommend that for blunts either, because that takes a little while. You can't really just dry it out. It's gonna, if you want to flavor your joints, you can get some kind of bag or a box. Roll up your weed and put something in it. Something like if you get a Tupperware box, you can put grapes or not grapes. You can put lemons or fucking candy or fucking other kinds of weed in it, or fucking anything you want that gives off an aroma. Anything with a scent, anything with a strong flavor. But it's not really easy to flavor joints. Oh, I left one tip out, and that's why I put bolts. That was just a note. The last tip is, before that, is to make them burn slower. Keep wetting them with saliva. Wet them with saliva, put the whole thing in your mouth. Or you could lick it. We'll put the whole thing in your mouth, light it, boom. The smaller it gets, you can, lick rings around it or whatever. Yeah, that helps a lot. If you use anything else like water, it's not gonna work. It's the it's the texture of your saliva and it being saliva. If you use lemon juice, anything acidic, anything other than your saliva, milk might work. I don't know. I've never tried that. But that's it. My 10 tips for rolling joints and smoking joints. Smoke responsibly. Peace.